Welcome to the Triple Threat Podcast, the podcast where we talk about, I don't really know, a bunch of different things.
Whatever we want, really. Whatever
we want.
We're in the mood to discuss.
That's right. So I'm the first voice you're hearing. I am Matt Vaughn.
Second voice you're hearing is my own. It's Will Vaughn.
Hey.
And he's Alex Vaughn.
He's still trying to figure out this whole podcast thing.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't really get it.
He doesn't get to introduce himself. Yes. So, last time on the show, we had a lengthy discussion about our predictions for WrestleMania 30, and the show has since come and gone. And today we actually want to get to a completely separate topic regarding superheroes and superhero movies, like the recent Captain America film that came out. We'll discuss the Man of Steel film that was released last year, and we'll kind of I think it would be an interesting comparison to discuss similarities and differences between Captain America and Kal-El, Superman.
Absolutely.
I think that'll be some good stuff coming up, so stick around for that. First, we need to get to the events of last week in WrestleMania, and also in our podcast. I actually made a list of corrections. I mean, well, it's somewhat of a list of corrections, and a list of correct predictions that were kind of odd. First off, the song that opened our show last week and closed the show, that WrestleMania theme, that was Linda McMahon's theme song.
Yes.
There you go. So Alex, you get that right.
Daniel Bryan arms right now.
That's right. Yesing as we speak. I had the wrong order of the matches. It was close, but it was wrong. It was just all over the place. That's okay. We kind of predicted something like Triple H would attack Daniel Bryan after their match, which is what happened. It wasn't quite the Fatal 4-Way, Alex, that you predicted.
No.
But it was close enough. I mean, Triple H did come out and figure into the finish in a pretty big way. So it got pretty wacky there. Bray Wyatt did have a weird band play him in, which was one of my favorite parts of the whole show.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
The day after the show, Cesaro wins that big trophy. I was wrong about it. It was a big, like, black base trophy that was broken over Cesaro by Jack Swagger. So there you go. The Andre trophy is broken. The show had 3 announce tables, and I believe only one of them got broken in a brutal way on Randy Orton's back. That was nasty. Mick Foley, I mentioned him reappearing at WrestleMania 22. It was actually 20 because he and The Rock faced Evolution at that show. And I also lied about tweeting during the show because I was in a...
Because you didn't do that.
I hardly tweeted at all during the show because I really couldn't. Because I was actually too busy watching the show, which is a good thing. And also, I'm in a packed movie theater. I saw this thing in Burnaby, and I'm used to watching it in a movie theater with not a whole lot of people. And this thing was jammed full of WWE fans. It's all good stuff. So, I'll start with myself. I thought it was a great show with, one of the highlights being that streak ending. The Undertaker's legendary 21-0 streak now down to 21-1, and a finish nobody saw coming, and just the priceless reactions of the fans at the Superdome was amazing.
Will, you were in a theater.
Yes.
I want to know, what was the audible reaction that you heard there? You're in a packed theater. The streak just ended. What was happening there?
People were like, "What? No, what?" I was laughing my tuchus off. I was laughing so hard. Not only I was just like, like that kind of like can't believe it laugh that people find really annoying. I was doing that. I couldn't believe it, and just the reactions were great, and just some people were just like, no way. I went to Twitter for that, to comb that for reactions, and people were losing their minds.
Yeah.
And it's great. That's what wrestling should be. It should be that kind of reaction to a finish. You know, like we all last week, we were all like, no way he's going to lose. And, there it is. The legendary streak comes to an end. No one is undefeated. No one is invincible. No one is immortal. Everyone, legends fall at one point, and Undertaker went one too many. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I think. Is it safe to assume that's his last match?
I think so. He can't come back next year and be like, well, now it's going to be 22-1. It's close, but not really.
I was talking to my friend Mark, who was watching the show with, and prior to the match, he wanted to make a bet that Taker would be there next year. And I was saying he wouldn't, and he was saying he was, and I didn't end up taking the bet. And after he lost, I realized I should have, because, I mean, what's the point of coming back next year if there's no streak to defend? I'd say he's done. There's
no point. I think next year, first Hall of Fame inductee is The Undertaker.
And I am no Richard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Other highlight. I mean, gosh, it was a great show. I mean, for to make a really good 4-hour show is difficult, and it was truly, Daniel Bryan's night, and he had there was a really hard time getting the crowd back after that streak ended, because the air just went out of the dome. I've never I can't get over it. I've never seen a crowd react that way before to something, just like a 3 count and then silence. How often in wrestling do you hear 1, 2, 3? What? Just like that split second. Yeah, nothing.
But the ref, I don't even know if the ref knew the finish, because he looked like he waved it off at first.
Really? I got to go back and watch that.
I've heard a lot about that.
Trying to wave his hands and then almost put up a 2. They don't show it very well.
Oh.
But at that point, Heyman was already in the ring. It's just, if you rewatch the finish, the ref looks like he has no idea what happened as well.
Okay, well, that's good. I guess it can make it look like a shoot. I guess. I mean, I know Undertaker got concussed, and like he did collapse backstage. And I'm still not sure if that's a work or not. Apparently, it's a shoot that he collapsed backstage, and it was a whole thing that he actually did get knocked out. Which
sorry, I just want to interject real quick.
Yeah.
For those for non-wrestling fans that are listening through this, work means.
Work means fake, shoot means real.
Right. So if they announce on the website, WWE.com, they say, The Undertaker collapsed. If it's a work, it means he never collapsed. It's just something to
part of the show.
Do to further it, that sort of thing. If it's a shoot, it means it legitimately happened.
It means
sorry about that.
No, that's okay. If it's a work, it means the character collapsed. If it's a shoot, it means the man collapsed.
Right. Yes.
Basically.
Exactly.
So that's a streak ending. And Daniel Bryan, I knew when the streak was over, he had to win that night. And gosh, they threw everything at him, and I just loved it. He did the whole. He came off the stretcher, and I mean, he's just like, nothing was stopping this guy. He was all guts, all heart, total textbook baby face, and then textbook heels. I kind of like Triple H and Randy and Batista teaming up on them, because they just look like a bunch of jerks. They play those roles so well, don't they? Yeah, I think they play it real well, and it's cool to see them from back in the day still kind of stick together, because Evolution's over 10 years old, if you can believe that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What did the triple threat match main event of WrestleMania? The babyface wins with a tap-out submission. What did that remind you of?
Oh, it reminded me of Chris Benoit. And there were so many, because Triple H put on the crossface a couple times in that match. There were multiple German suplexes in the card. Right. There was I think Daniel hit the flying headbutt. Like, there's so many kind of odd, like, are they doing that on purpose? Yeah. to me, it just seemed that way. I don't know if they're going to be ready to talk about him again. But I think time heals most wounds, and maybe they will. It's a tricky situation. And yes, Daniel Bryan, your new WWE World Heavyweight Champion, very exciting. Some tragedy over the week. Of course, the Warrior just inducted in the Hall of Fame and comes out and gives a very impassioned speech on Monday Night Raw. And sadly, Tuesday night, he passes away, collapses outside his hotel of an apparent heart attack. Shocking, guys.
Yes.
It was crazy that the weekend of events was Saturday in the Hall of Fame, Sunday at WrestleMania. At WrestleMania, he even got to do a little entrance separate from all the other Hall of Fame inductees. Yeah,
which they do sometimes. I remember they did it for Shawn Michaels when I saw him live in Atlanta, and he was, usually the first guy they named to the Hall is like the kind of main guy, even though it was, like I said, great class. But Ultimate Warrior came out last, and he got his due, man. After years of people burying him, he got his due.
Yeah, and then Monday on Raw, he has a really, I don't know, I guess I don't know, a chance to have his own time in the spotlight again. And then Tuesday, it's Tuesday night when I found out that he died.
Yeah, Matt,
Crazy.
I got the text from you and you said Ultimate Warrior, and I was like, oh yeah, did you see his promo on Raw? And he's like, no, he died, and I couldn't believe. I just like, what? And I was at Ian's restaurant, and I was like, it was. I felt really. It was right before I went to see Captain America. I was going to meet up with a friend to watch that, and I was just kind of sitting there, like I was rattled. I was really rattled to hear about this. Like, I'm not usually shook by celebrity deaths. I guess Seymour Hoffman was the last one that kind of like shocked me a little bit.
Yeah, that wasn't even that long ago.
Yeah. So I was really rattled, and I just had to be like, I kind of wanted to like talk to somebody about it, And I was texting you guys about it, or you, Matt, because Alex, I think you were asleep at that time. But I just had to talk to somebody about it, and I was like, Ian, Ultimate Warrior died. He's like, what? And I was kind of like, yeah. And I went and saw my friend who doesn't watch wrestling, and I was like, hey. And she's like, you all right? And I was like, yeah. This is kind of weird, but this very famous pro wrestler just died, and it was a whole thing. And I explained to her the whole situation. She's kind of like, okay, that's too bad. I mean, he's a performer. It's like any performer that dies, that goes before his time. Only 54 years old, and I don't know, guys. It's just eerie timing, but also very good that he got to mend a lot of fences.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the timing, while odd, it was really good that he went out the way that he did.
Yeah,
I think a big thing is he was huge during a part of wrestling where pro wrestling captured the hearts of lots of children. And I think that it's one of those things where you get older and you think back, you talk with your friends about Ultimate Warrior, and then it's a big deal when he goes away because it's part of your childhood.
So many people who don't watch wrestling today watched it when we were, when they were kids. And Ultimate Warrior really did. He connected with a lot of kids. He's just so energetic, and the face paint and the tassels, so like the neon colors and the feathered hair, and he was just ripped and jacked beyond belief. He had an amazing. Yeah, he just sprint to the ring, shake the ropes up, with that big gorilla press slam and that splash finish that he had. He was really, really exciting. And a lot of people, on social media are just kind of like, wow, I grew up watching this guy. I can't believe he's gone. The R.I.P. Warrior. He's really, it shows kind of the extent of his reach, of his influence.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, any thoughts on that as we kind of transition away from Warrior?
Not that we haven't already covered, just was, equally as shocked, because I was, given the time difference, asleep at the time.
Yeah.
I'm on the East Coast, so, woke up to like 28 texts from you guys talking back and forth. And, when you see that number, something's up, and that wasn't what I was expecting. So, yeah, it was very, very shocking. A bummer, a big bummer, but, like you guys said, good to see him go out and things like that. So
yeah, it's like
the one positive I guess you could take away.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Unfortunately, tomorrow's never guaranteed. But heck, we're all here now, and I had my own little encounter yesterday. I was working, and this is one of the highlights of working at a restaurant. I'm an actor, so of course I work at a restaurant as a bartender, and
of course
it's a pretty big restaurant downtown Vancouver. And one of the guys came up. He's like, "Will, you watch wrestling, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, we got Summer Rae's at the bar." I was like, "What? Really?" Summer Rae, Mrs. Fandango, sitting at the bar, and I know she's in town. She's in town shooting Marine 4 with the Miz. So I wasn't completely surprised. I was like, okay, she's in town shooting Marine. And he's like, go say hi. And I was like, okay. So I went up to the bar, but she was like eating and talking to someone. So I was like, and I ran away. And then 2 seconds later, I was like, no. It's the same thing I felt when I met Keegan-Michael Key and Catherine Hahn. I didn't want to bother them, but at the same time, I'm like, I won't forgive myself if I just leave them. They're in my restaurant. I have every right to go up to them and just say hi, for goodness sake. And right. I don't regret it for a second. I mean, though they were the nicest. Keegan-Michael Key, I know people say this about celebrities. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met. He was so, so polite and so nice. Mm-hmm. And Catherine Hahn was really lovely too. I think she could tell I knew him. I liked him a little bit. I want to say I liked him a little bit more, but he's got his own show. And I loved Catherine Hahn on Parks and Rec. Hilarious. I just watched. I was half forced into watching How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and I was very talks about that.
So
And I was very pleased. Like the credits are coming on, I see Catherine Hahn, and I'm like, this is great.
Yeah,
it was so great to see her
and Tom Lennon as well.
And Tom Lennon. I was trying to remember his name, but it was a real thrill to see that to see them in that. And yeah, that's right. I had forgotten that you had met them. And McConaughey, of course, was just a delight.
And McConaughey, yeah, he's having a big resurgence. Good on him. But they were a delight. So I decided to go up to Summer Rae, and before I did, my coworker was talking to her, and he hands me a piece of paper, and it says, "To Will, you are a chicken. I swear I'm nice. I promise I'm nice. Signed, Summer Rae." And I was like, okay, so there's my icebreaker right there. And I was like, look, I didn't want to, bother you and all this stuff. And she was so nice, shook my hand, asked my name. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I know you're in town shooting Marine 4. And we had a lovely talk. I told her where the Whole Foods was. She's like, oh my goodness, you just saved my life. I was like, yes, I know how they have to eat very, very well. She was talking about how her wardrobe in the film allowed her to maybe not eat as well because in the ring she wears, I would say, next to nothing.
Right.
And on this, she plays this kind of badass soldier. So she's got the fatigues and the camo and all this stuff on. So, she just wants to know what's a good place to go around town. I told her where some nice stuff is. And, yeah, gosh, I can't say enough nice things about Summer Rae. She was talking to me about her Twitter angle that she has now, where her and Fandango have split up over Twitter. And I was like, yeah, that's really weird. She's like, yeah, it was my idea. She said that she pitched, and Vince kind of took it and put it onto social media. She said the social media guys were freaking out. They're like, oh, it's just so good. But I'm like, that's a weird angle to do, not in the ring, just to do over social media. I don't think we're ready for that yet.
It's this weird push. I think it's part of the push online that they're trying to do.
Yes,
definitely with their network. So who knows? Maybe it is. Maybe it will be super
they
odd.
Tell you 63 times a show what's trending on Twitter.
Oh gosh!
So I think that's definitely
hashtag Big Show.
Yeah, that's. I get that's the age. It's the age in which we live. I think. Yes, but she was super, super nice. I was going to say one more thing. Oh, yeah, she's not used. She's like, I have days off. She's not used to having days off because, when you're on a movie, you shoot in clusters, right? You're basically there all day for maybe 3 or 4 days, and you maybe have like a couple days off just because they have a location. That's how they schedule a movie. You just shoot out a location, then you go on to the next one. That's what they would have done when they shot the film Man of Steel here in town. I remember it came out years ago. I had an audition for it for a very small part. It was like a fisherman, and of course I didn't get it.
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right.
Not the not getting it part. Fisherman part. Yeah.
That's Alex's faith in Will's career.
That was not it at all.
No, you know what? And I didn't take it that way. So I think it
was poorly timed at the end of it.
That's a good sign for both of us that you didn't mean it that way, and I didn't take it that way, because you can get those people that are super sensitive and unlike the Man of Steel, who is rather, and let's just talk about the film, rather boring. Boom, there it is. That's how I felt about it.
Alex, you saw it most recently, right? You had mentioned it. I want to hear what your thoughts were on it when you saw it.
A Man of Steel?
Yes, please.
Yes, sorry. Just really disappointed, and I'm starting to feel like that's just Superman on the whole of how he is. You can't build a good movie around an invincible person, no matter what. And I was really looking forward to it with Henry Cavill and as well as Michael Shannon as the bad guy, who was good, but just I don't know, and the Christopher Nolan input and things like that, but it just very flat for me. There wasn't anything to it.
Yeah, I agree. I watched that a night show one night and in 3D, and I guess movies come out nowadays. You hit RottenTomatoes.com and you're like, yeah, I thought this movie was going to be good, but it's, I don't know what it ended up at, maybe 58% or something. I know it finished quote unquote rotten, but I was like, oh, I thought this is, from the trailers, it looked awesome. And it was one of those movies where I felt the trailers were the best part. I mean, the cool shot of him about to take off flying with the pebbles kind of hovering around him, like, oh, this is really cool. They want to make it kind of try to make it physically realistic, but just the whole thing, I was nodding off during it in the movie theater. Maybe it's the darkness of the 3D, but I was nodding off the 20-minute climactic fight scene where they just smash through all of Metropolis with no regard for, the damage he's causing. He's trying to, he's killing millions to get this one guy, to get General Zod. That was a problem to me. And also just the way they structured the story, how they flash back and forth. It was kind of, I got to chalk that up to Zack Snyder, who kind of, to me, dropped the ball on that one, which was too bad because I was a fan of his before. I enjoyed 300 and Watchmen. Yes, and Dawn of the Dead. But this Superman iteration, I was unpleased with. And
really, Kevin Costner, you're just going to stand there and just give up because you don't want your son to come and save you? That drove me.
That drove a lot of people nuts, which was too bad because I loved his performance in that movie.
I did too.
He's the only thing that like touched me emotionally when he's like, you are my son. It's kind of something in both eyes there. But other than that, I mean, Henry Cavill, I don't blame. I thought he was okay. I just thought his Superman was just way too stone serious. He's way too stoic. Yeah, is how I felt about him. He needs a he's got to be the superhero with a little. I think every superhero needs that like twinkle, and Bruce Wayne's a little bit sarcastic, right? So that comes across. But Superman's a little bit too like, yes, I'm here to do good, and he's a little too. Maybe he's too goody-goody, and that may be past muster in the 30s. But today, he needs. I don't know. He needs an edge. Maybe they tried to give him an edge. I know their complaint in Superman Returns was that he never threw a punch. That entire movie, he didn't throw one punch. And this one, he throws about 600. If he was a boxer, he would have landed 600 to 600 strikes. So they have a movie where they don't punch at all, and now they have a movie where they just punch everything in existence. I'm surprised he didn't, punch Lois Lane. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought that's how you greeted each other here. Sorry, I didn't know you don't punch each other out. I made a mistake.
If you watch the first 10 or 15 minutes of each of the Nolan Dark Knight movies, you usually get a little taste of at least a little bit of playful banter between Bruce Wayne and Alfred, and I think that goes a long way.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
because like Batman is he's punching people in the face, he's doing awesome things, and then you have this moment of like, okay, like this guy's a real person. You could actually have a conversation with this guy, whereas Superman, I don't know if it's because he's straight up an alien or I don't get it.
Also, his dad is Russell Crowe, who to me, I still have yet to see Noah, but Russell, I don't know what it is, but he struck out on Robin Hood for me. Russell puts me to bed. I find him, he's good, but I'm just like, there's something about him. I don't know if I'm being too hard on him in this movie, but he's like, yes, you're my son. There's just something about him that I'm just like, I just find it so uninteresting,
and
unfortunately.
They make those kind of earthly comparisons. It's like, oh, we're this great society, and we branched out throughout outer space, and then we're going to die because we used up all our resources. Sounds familiar, doesn't it, folks?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think you're hitting a little too close there, or trying to create something that isn't there, doesn't need to be. But
yeah, Al Gore was a huge fan.
Yeah.
We were the United Space Association.
Yeah. And
USA, by the way.
It's the same thing that happens with any superhero movie. The biggest deal was about how in shape Cavill was.
Oh, he looked like $1 million. No doubt there.
They also said during the shirtless scenes he was 3% body fat, which he totally wasn't. Because if you're 3% body fat, I can give you a prostate exam without even, just by looking at you.
Yeah, turn around.
Good, but...
Wow, yeah. You know what's interesting? I worked with a guy named Torrance Coombs. He's a star of CW's Reign. There's a nice name drop there. We worked on this film, Edward, together this summer. Torrance is a cool guy, and he worked with Henry on The Tudors in England. And he said that Henry was a guy who would just sit in his room and play World of Warcraft and work out. And that's all he would do. He would just work out and like eat chicken, all the time because he was trying to get in. He's doing his work to get in shape for Superman. No, I'm incorrect. He did Immortals first, where he was a lot smaller, and then he did Superman, where he was quite a bit bigger.
Ripped. He was pretty ripped in Immortals. Well,
my goodness, yes, he was shredded, man. He was shredded in both movies. The physique was never in doubt for that. For either movie, and like I said, his performance was good, but I just think they, didn't. There were two gimmicks that kind of bother me. Where there's like, we're not doing this in this movie. One is no kryptonite, so there you go. That's why he's invincible. That and the second is we will not say Superman. And they do that scene where he's like, "What's that? What's the S stand for?" He's like, "That's a symbol. It means, what does it mean? Hope, I think." And she's like, "I think it stands for soup." Feedback on the microphone. That was fake feedback, by the way, not real feedback.
No, okay.
Yeah, I know. It sounded real, but
it was that real.
It was that real, folks. So that's that's among my issues of the film. Just too, I don't know. It somehow managed to be too much and not enough at the same time. I don't know how a movie can do that, but that's how it felt to me.
Yeah, it was wrong in every aspect. Basically, couldn't hit a note of it, and tried to reach way too far, and came up completely empty-handed.
Yeah, it just couldn't connect with me.
Nope.
It just really that's the bottom line. There's been bad movies that have connected with me, and I've enjoyed them. I'm like, no, this is bad, but it's hitting me on some level. I remember last year. This is back to WrestleMania real quick, but after last year's WrestleMania 29, it didn't connect with me at the show, and I was just kind of like, that kind of left me a little hollow, It kind of left me wanting something else. And my friends were like, "We're going to see Evil Dead, let's go." And I was like, okay. And I saw that right after WrestleMania, and I was like, this is exactly what I wanted. It was such a visceral experience.
Yeah.
This movie just reached right down, it grabbed something in me. It bothered me so much. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I didn't know how else to describe it. But I mean, that's what films do. That's what how it's supposed to make us feel. I mean, gosh, there was a scene even in the Lego movie where I put involuntarily, I put both my fists in the air to celebrate something that happened. But that's what movies should do. And I didn't feel, I just didn't feel a second of it in Superman and Man of Steel. I just didn't feel a second of that. There was some nice looking effects and some cool looking punches and that sort of thing. But overall, I was just kind of like, except for that stuff with Costner, I felt like it didn't connect with me emotionally.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I thought Metropolis was so weird because it was this situation where you're seeing so much destruction happening, and it's so it's so wanton, this destruction. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, there's no sense of Metropolis being a real place. So it's almost like Superman is beating people up across Sim City. It's that level of I don't care. And I think that to go back to Nolan's Dark Knight movies, he filmed them in Chicago and New York and Pittsburgh and these places that you can pull back and you can see there's a bridge falling, and you actually get a sense of oh, okay, even though I'm assuming this is Gotham and not Manhattan, I still get a sense of, oh, that's a real place, real people would go there, that sort of thing. But Metropolis, yeah, it was just so
felt empty.
Felt empty.
Totally
and
empty.
Isn't that exactly what that movie was? That movie was just like Metropolis itself.
Very
empty.
A very empty film. And the problem I got no problem with CG spaceships and CG aliens. Those things aren't real. But when you're wrecking CG buildings, they're made out of paper, they just look like they're cookies crumbling like that.
Abrupt commercial break.
Man, Stamps.com. I can't get over how much I love Stamps.com and how much I hate waiting in line at the post office.
Absolutely. Now, Will, before the break, you were talking about you compared Metropolis to cookies crumbling, I believe.
Well, to me, it's like this building crumbles, and it's fake, and it just doesn't. Again, it just doesn't connect. You just know it's fake. If you blow up a spaceship, I know that's fake, and that's fine. But if you blow up, you smash all these buildings, and no one's really. I don't know how else to describe it. Just flat. Just very flat.
And yet, over about a week ago, there was another movie that came out in theaters that was also about a guy who was kind of a Boy Scout, kind of very positive guy who has been in superhero movies before,
and a number of them.
And yet that movie was, in my opinion, much, much better than Man of Steel. I'm talking about Captain America, and I'm talking about Captain America Winter Soldier. Yeah. Absolutely. So am I wrong in thinking that we all like that movie better than Man of Steel?
I would say so.
No, I was certainly a bigger fan of Captain America. I thought it wasn't as great as I hoped, but definitely a lot better than Man of Steel by a long shot.
A couple of things about the film. First of all, the hand-to-hand combat for me was awesome, and there were so many great hand-to-hand fights. There's that one fight where he faces off with GSP, who has lines. He has lines in the movie. I was so happy, even though it was in French. I was so happy George got to say something, and that face-off on the ship. Because as an audience, you're like, well, this guy's a real MMA fighter, so maybe this guy can really mess Captain America up. And then he says to him in French, he says, I thought you were more than a shield. Captain America throws his shield down and responds in French, let's see. And then he just whacks him down with this massive kick. I'm going to say right now, if you haven't seen Captain America Winter Soldier, thanks for listening to the podcast. Have a nice day, because we're going to spoil the heck out of this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
We might as well. I thought that was really cool. I thought the scenes where he's hand-to-hand combat with the Winter Soldier for the first time. Winter Soldier pulls out that knife and is tossing it around. Oh, man, that was really cool. And it was real. Like that's what I enjoyed about it. Didn't punch him through a building. It was real.
Yeah, the Marvel movies have been kind of weird for me, because ever since Avengers, when they were just accepted, hey, look, there's going to be aliens in this movie, you have to kind of go along with the ride. I was less crazy about it, just because I don't know, it's something about going that far with the universe by saying like, oh yeah, there's aliens, we just all kind of have to deal with it. That kind of bugged me a little bit. That rubbed me the wrong way. I understand that's kind of the reality you have to deal with when Thor comes in.
Is it not? Like, just, here's some faceless enemy and we'll battle them innumerably until they're no longer here.
Well, yeah, you need some.
Right.
The first Avengers film is about the team coming together and fighting Loki, really. And Loki kind of has this weird alliance with. I'm going to get his name wrong. Shoot, what the heck is it?
Well, the aliens are the Chitauri or something like that.
Yeah, and the guy he's talking to is someone mega. Oh my goodness,
angry purple face.
And there's about a million. There's a billion. The millions of nerds listening to this podcast are freaking out right now. They can't believe
I would love if there are millions of nerds listening to this podcast.
Billions of nerds listening to this podcast. Cannot believe it, but. What that movie needed was some putties, basically. You got some putties. Well, really. I mean, you got some putties, and they had to wipe these guys out. And it, what's cooler than seeing the group of the Avengers work together and really whip a lot of tuchus, Ultron. Maybe that's him. No, I think it's somebody else. Yeah, shoot.
You thinking about the guy that showed up at the end after the end credits?
That'd be Ultron.
Would that be?
No,
Ultron?
It wasn't Ultron either. It was. Crap, what was his name? I know, I remember.
For the next half hour, just to be like, what's that?
Yeah. Who was that guy? But I guess what I was saying with Captain America, for some reason, even though we've got to the point where there are aliens and sometimes there's lasers, and in this Captain America movie there were flying aircraft carriers, it didn't bug me as much. Maybe I'm just being worn down by these Marvel movies. But it didn't bother me as much this time, and so I was able to just kind of go with it a lot better than before. And maybe that's just the strength of the movie itself.
Even though Captain America's crew largely, he's got the heart of, his heart never changes. He always has had the biggest heart. They throw the grenade down, this little skinny kid's going to be the guy to jump on it. And that's how they know they got the right guy to try out this serum on. So it's kind of the most realistic Avenger. You have Thor, who's a god. And that's, look, he's from another dimension. Everybody there is really technically is an alien. And so is Superman. But then you have Hulk, who turns into a green monster because of gamma radiation. Tony Stark, who has this impossible heart and this like fantastical suit that I think they calculated the cost of the Iron Man suit, and it was like $5 billion or something like that. I can't remember which magazine, but somebody did an article. Yeah, they did an article about how much the Mark I Iron Man suit would cost. who cost a lot. But Captain America is the most realistic Avenger. He's just a super soldier. You know, he can get hurt, but not really. And he's also super strong to the point where he kicks guys that go flying, which I thought was a good touch. I was like, that makes sense. It's still fantastical, but this one was it did look badass. Yeah. This one's, you know, it's realistic, but it's still a little bit fantastical and also very political. And I enjoyed Robert Redford in this movie a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I thought
I love that he was in it.
I loved that he was in it. I thought he was great. And you know, it's like political intrigue. You know, and it should be. It's Captain America, you know, and that weird Captain America. And this really I enjoyed also how this advanced the story of S.H.I.E.L.D. How now I think these Marvel movies were all kind of like, they're all sequels of each other. This one had the most to do with the S.H.I.E.L.D. since Avengers. Really, this is the most S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff we've seen. You know, you didn't see a whole heck of a lot of it in Iron Man 3 or in Thor 2. But in Captain America 2, we see a lot of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff.
Yes.
And I think the next Marvel movie to come out will be Avengers. And I think that's next year, right?
Next summer, yeah.
Next summer,
Mackie played Falcon, and it basically called it Avengers 1.5.
And it really is. He's really not far off in that.
I've heard some people, and I think this is actually kind of silly. I've heard ever since the Avengers movie, after every movie, somebody says, "Well, why didn't they just call the other Avengers for that?" But let's see if we can justify it for this movie, because I think that's kind of a dumb thing to say. Why didn't they call Thor? Well, Thor's in a different dimension, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Bruce Banner doesn't want to be bothered.
No.
It's fair to assume that he's not likely to, you know, jump in and want to do something like that. And Tony Stark, since we last saw him in Iron Man 3, kind of giving it up a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Kind of,
drives off in the sunset.
Yeah, and this thing, too, just works in such a, you know, small timeline. I think they said it took place in 3 days or something like that. So, I mean...
Yeah, exactly.
Even assemble them all, it just seemed futile. And I thought they handled it well without even really needing to handle it.
Yeah.
Not like Avengers they have to show, like, oh, there's Natalie Portman, and we sent her to somewhere so they wouldn't bother. And he's like, yeah, cool. It's like, you don't even really have to cover it in this. You don't have to mention, you know, just a little couple mentions here and there of Stark and whatnot. But
yes, exactly. And they also mentioned Stephen Strange too at one point, which is very, you know, which I'm sure a lot of folk, like big comic book guys, were kind of like, oh, sweet, because you can talk about that now. You know, Marvel. I think the whole universe is really going to come together at some point, but you got to make these movies about the individual characters, you know, because the Avengers movies are the Avengers movies. Like they'll be there, but also you get to tell these individual stories about these characters because the characters themselves hold up these movies so well. You know,
oh yeah, for sure.
Just like how, you know, DC is still rumored to be making a Justice League movie. That would, I assume, I don't think they would ever try to compete directly with Marvel. But, I mean, box office wise, the Dark Knight series made a ton of money. Even though Man of Steel was a disappointment as a film, I think commercially it still made a bunch of money. So they're going to combine Supes from that movie and Batman and have them kind of do their own movie together.
And did you hear what Marvel movie's coming out the same day at this point?
What is it?
Captain America 3.
That's May 6, 2016?
Same day?
That's the same day. Okay, so here we go.
Which, not to spoil much about Captain America, but having just said there's a sequel coming, kind of didn't add much drama to any Captain America in peril situations if you already know the sequel's been announced.
Yes.
Right.
And I think they announced a sequel like that Friday or something. And there's a reason I wanted to see this movie kind of right away. One of the reasons is because of all this Hail Hydra stuff on Twitter. I saw that and I was like, well, what the heck is this about? I got to watch this movie. Shut up, Internet. I haven't seen this movie yet. You know, also we knew there'd be an Avengers movie sequel. So we obviously know that Cap's not going to get whacked in this one. You know, that makes it pretty obvious. Yeah, as a character comparison between Captain America and Superman, they're both very stoic, but Captain America is he's a human from Earth, even though he has this serum in him. And
he's got a lot more heart, though, too. Like, there's all that stuff with...
Because he needed it. Because he was a small guy, so he needed that much heart, you know?
But with who was his love interest in the last movie?
Peggy Carter.
Peggy. I was like, it's not Peggy Olsen.
No, not Peggy Olsen.
She's from Mad Men. Yeah,
sorry. That'd be very different. Those timelines would work. Well, no, not really. She'd be too young. But yeah, like, I think that he actually does have a lot more heart because... there is this sense of mourning that he has from not being able to spend time with her. And it's so much more human than anything that Superman has showed in the last movie or even the last few movies that we've seen out of him.
Well, the thing with Superman is he can show up on Earth and he can, even though he probably doesn't have a whole lot of money, he gets a job pretty much right away. Or he gets the job at the end of Man of Steel, right? He gets the job at the
Daily Planet.
The Daily Planet. But he figured that Superman could come to Earth and basically get any lady he wanted. No problem. With Captain America, he was that little guy and now he's a big guy. And suddenly now he can kind of, catch the eye of this woman who gets to see him come out of this machine all greased up and buff. which is a heck of a reintroduction. But I just think Superman's got... He started having with it going on, and he's always had it going on. And with Captain America, he suddenly goes from one type of man to a completely other type of man with all this.
Would you be willing to say he goes from zero to hero?
He pulls a full Hercules. That's right. Yeah,
is that what that's called? If you go from a zero to hero, it's full Hercules.
Yeah, but that's called full Hercules. Yeah, The Rock could tell you about that.
Oh, that's right.
Even though he wasn't much of a zero ever, I don't think he might.
Dude was Jack. He wasn't much. Like 15, so I would say not.
Good thing you got rid of that mustache.
So let's go through the kind of big. I'll say 2 big plot points in this movie.
Sure.
Maybe 3. I guess 3 if we're counting the main plot of the movie. But the 2 points: 1, Nick Fury, no longer with us. At least temporarily, at least.
I thought he was gone.
I thought he was gone too, and I was like, you know what? That's fine. If that's what happens, it's kind of like the Dark Knight when Rachel goes. You're like, man, that sucks, but that gives them something to fight for, or kind of some intrigue there. So when he went down, I was like, yes, okay, fine, I'm good with that. Let's see how S.H.I.E.L.D. works without Nick Fury.
With Nick Fury, I was counting in my head. I was like, he has a 9-movie deal. How many movies has he been in? I couldn't help but think that because I was like, wait, he can't die yet.
Yeah, that is the problem with that stuff. It's like reading wrestling.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. It was
not you.
It was
in my
head.
Way things are reported nowadays. That's all.
That's true.
Yeah,
yeah. But I was sure he was dead, and then we came back. I was like, I knew it. But
it was good though. It got me in the story. I was like, good. All right.
Yeah.
That one nailed me. So there's that plot point.
Well, then there's the opposite effect too when it turns out to be not true. So he goes down and you're like, all right, I'm accepting it. Let's get on here. And then it's just like, no, we just slowed his heartbeat down to 1 minute. Yeah, something that do it the whole time. You're just like, if you're going to kill him, just kill him.
Yeah, it's something that Banner designed for him, they said, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you guys see his? Did you guys see his gravestone at the end? What it said on it?
Ezekiel 25:17.
Yeah.
Did it?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So that's for those the one person who won't get that reference, Mom. That's a Pulp Fiction reference. Tarantino movie he was in 1994. So let's get over 2 more references because I wanted to mention this. The directors of this movie.
Yes,
right.
Weird choices.
The Russo brothers, who I know the most from Community and Arrested Development, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all over sitcoms.
I thought it was a reference, but I guess it wasn't. The Sitwell I picked up on right away, but I think he had been in previous movies.
Oh. Jasper Sitwell?
Jasper Sitwell, but that stuck out, so maybe it wasn't. And then Daniel Pudi showing up for 2 minutes.
Oh, Daniel Pudi was great.
Yeah.
I love that. I went to the movie with my wife, and I was like, "There's gonna be someone showing up in this, and you're gonna be very happy when he does."
Oh man, yeah.
But I really wanted him to be like, "I'm gonna go take a bathroom break. cool. Like I really wanted,
That'd been-
I wanted to be able to believe that Abed had been recruited for Shield sometime after leaving Greendale.
Or do
was
that little
deepest
handshake with his little buddy, that little like the one like the
Yeah.
toy, the chest slap, hand slap thing.
Yeah.
That would have been nice. But that was a great. That was delightful for a fan of both shows.
Yeah, it was
Yes,
great.
I am.
And I actually had no idea those guys were the directors, and they were an odd choice, but I thought they did a fantastic job.
I looked it up
Absolutely.
before I went to see it because I watch these movies now and like it bugs me when I'm watching and I'm like, who directed this? And it's on my phone, like I can check it in an instant. So I decided to check it out. So yeah, it was those two, and the guy who directed the first Captain America, Joe Johnston, who did like Jumanji and Jurassic Park 3 and all these like big effects pictures.
Two of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, two of the best movies ever made.
Yep.
All these big effects pictures. It seems like a logical choice for like a Captain America movie. And then Joe and Anthony Russo. Weird choice for Winter Soldier, but they pulled it off. It was very well directed.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And good
very
for them,
much
too.
so. And very practical. Kind of in the opposite vein, even though we were talking about the difference in how it looked. Like, I think they did a lot more, lot less CGI,
Far
So
less.
only when they really needed to do it did they use it. And that just goes a long way in terms of adding realism to everything.
Absolutely.
Every
Absolutely.
moment of the movie.
Yep. And I would have liked to have seen some more stuff between Captain America and the Winter Soldier. That would have been
Yes.
nice. I think that, the friendship there with Bucky, who I knew it was Bucky, by the way, before I saw the movie, and I wish I didn't. Apparently it's widely known knowledge.
So the Winter
yeah.
Soldier is a comic series, so that's known to anybody who would be, kind of into the comics, which really none of us are comic book readers. That's a
yeah.
point to
That-
bring out. We don't
that's
follow
a fact.
any type of comic book
Yeah.
other than the movies. So that's the other big part of it, I guess, or was a big part for me. I would say when they were revealed that the Winter Soldier is Bucky Barnes, who was his friend from the first movie who died, or so we thought, and
Yeah, he fell off that train.
I was blown, like my jaw kind of dropped when his face mask came off because I had no idea. And I would say maybe 20% of the theater knew who it was. Like it wasn't, he looked different enough that I don't think anybody knew it was the guy from the first movie.
Well, he died in 1940 something. He fell off a train, and I guess the story is they found him and freezed him, and they're able to make him survive. I think. Well, they gave him something before he went on that.
Yeah,
train
it was before.
that made him
It was
survive
before,
the
and he had
fall.
been active the whole time.
Yeah.
He'd been active during that time. They had mentioned a little bit.
Yeah,
Freeze him and unfreeze him and clear his memory and things like that.
yeah. They give him that memory erase scene in the chair where he gets to show off how much he worked out.
Yeah. Hey, if you're going to, right? I mean,
Hey, man, yeah, if you're going to put the work in, you might as well show it off. That reveal was great when Cap sees him. He's like, Bucky? Who the hell's Bucky? I'm like, oh, well, that would have been an awesome surprise if it were a surprise. You know what ruined that for me? It was Muscle and Fitness. Muscle and Fitness gave that away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's a
weird.
That's a quality brag. Yeah, I was reading this magazine about getting in real good shape.
Oh, anybody
I remember-
can read it. I don't do
Right.
anything they say anymore. Oh, it hurts. The weights are so heavy they are. Oh, my goodness.
But when I remember when I saw the first movie, I was like, okay, Bucky Barnes. Like, I know I'm entering into a kind of a world where people have different, they do different things. So when I heard about Bucky Barnes and I looked him up, they're like, oh, he goes away and he becomes a Winter Soldier. So when I heard the Winter Soldier and I saw that, I was like, okay, well, that's just that makes sense from what I knew because I didn't
There you
know
go.
they were going to go that way with the movie. But
And
Yeah.
that's why I used to be really into doing that, and now I've gone like completely the other way, even with looking at trailers and things like that. And that's one thing they did very well for this movie was to really have no reveals in the trailer.
Which they could have done.
They could have done easily, but
for
I've
sure.
gone the other way where I don't really read anything beforehand, and I don't watch a lot of trailers. I just go, "Oh, the new Captain America movie's out, great." I'll
know
go
what
see it, and then it's a very organic experience. Not that might have been you know what I mean.
No, I know exactly
Yeah.
what you mean.
Yeah.
For me, when I see a trailer and it's a boring movie, I time check the movie. I'm like, okay, so we haven't come across the scene where he goes up and does this thing yet, so we still got some time. All right, here we go. These new trailers are about 2.5 minutes long. The trailer for Transcendence is great in the first 2 minutes, and then the last 30 seconds, it just tells you way too much. I'm like, I don't have to
Everything.
see this movie now. I don't have to see it. I know what happens, or I have a feeling I know what happens. But you're giving away way too many story points. Yeah. And with Winter Soldier, they did a good job of just, Captain America, and he's got to fight this guy. See it. You're going to.
And Robert Redford's in it.
That's
what got it for me. I was like, oh, wow, they got him in this. And I know superhero movies have kind of a bit of a tradition of being able to get somewhat reputable actors to come into them and be like, hey, you'll be out there again. You'll get some money, that sort of thing.
Funny, though, they all have the same reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
The actors just go, oh, my kids are really into it, and I wanted them to actually be interested in a movie that I was in, so that's why.
But Captain America came out when Robert Redford was like probably, a teenager or something. I don't know.
Yes, but if you look, he said that was the reason why.
Yeah.
He wanted to be in a Marvel movie for his, kids, or not his kids, his grandkids or whatever.
Yeah, but he just does. He's just a fantastic actor.
He just adds a lot of pastiche and panache and other P words to the movie.
Well, he just adds weight to it.
Yes.
I just love seeing Robert Redford in Washington, D.C. because it just brought me back to All the President's Men, and I was like, damn, that's a good movie.
By the way,
and I think... Yeah, go ahead.
No, you finished up that thought because I have something kind of different to bring up.
Sure. Seeing him there brought me back to All the President's Men, and I was like, that's a good movie, and it's kind of smart of them to... they can take a location, and they can take an actor who's so well-known for such a great movie, and kind of evoke that movie and not feel like you're betraying it at all. When you watch it, it doesn't feel like they're like trying to be like, huh? Isn't this movie like interesting like that movie? It's like, no, just kind of put it in your mind in a really, really great way. So if you haven't seen All the President's Men, I highly suggest it. You can get it on iTunes. You can probably check online to see if it's on Netflix or something.
Yeah, it's a classic. I actually feel poorly about not having seen. I really should check that movie out.
It's very good. It's very much if you've seen Zodiac cribs a lot of the investigative details from that, just kind of the movement of the investigation. But even actually, I will say, if you haven't seen Zodiac, see that movie because that's one of my all-time favorite movies.
Starring Bruce Banner himself, Mark Ruffalo.
And Iron Man.
And Iron Man, who I just discovered is on Twitter as of 2 days ago. Talk to me, Twitter. Right. Robert Downey Jr. 1.15 million followers in 2 days.
I clicked on him once, and this was like I just saw I think Richard Roper tweeted something about it, and so I clicked on him, and he had 25,000. I clicked maybe 10 minutes later, and he had 250,000.
Honestly, it spreads.
Without tweeting basically anything.
Yeah, he just said hi. Talk to me, Twitter, with a picture of himself.
Yeah,
and there you go.
The coolest man on earth, though.
So the trailers I got for this were all Marvel trailers. We've got Amazing Spider-Man 2, X-Men Days of Future Past, and Guardians of the Galaxy. It's going to be a good summer for films. I think this should be pretty fun. Guardians of the Galaxy looks wacky, and as well it should be. They just kind of introduce all these characters as Peter Serafinowicz says, what a bunch of a-holes.
Yes.
which is hilarious. But, it's Chris Pratt and Batista and Zoe Saldana and Bradley Cooper and Vin Diesel. And they're just such a ragtag-looking group. I know nothing.
Bradley Cooper and Vin Diesel?
They're the tree and the raccoon and the tree.
They don't talk really.
No, they don't talk in the trailer, no, but I know this because of IMDb.
Trying to avoid knowing anything about anything.
Just imagine the tree talking like this.
Oh yes, and now
I need a 5-second car.
Yeah, he's gonna be slow and furious. So that'll be a fun movie. I know nothing about the comics, but that'll be a fun movie.
I'm just such a Pratt fan. He's
hilarious.
Got me in his pocket. As long as he's doing whatever, I'll be going to see it for a while now.
Should be good.
Star-Lord.
Star-Lord. X-Men Days of Future Past looks awesome. You got the director from the first 2 X-Men films, which were great and groundbreaking comic book movies. If X-Men 1 didn't happen, we wouldn't have the current boom we're experiencing right now. And then you have the tremendous cast from both movies. Both series, I should say, the first X-Men series and the X-Men First Class, which was a great movie. I thought that
fantastic that they're combined.
Very interesting.
And with a really cool poster campaign too, with the X's over Magneto and and Charles Xavier's faces, how they combine the actors in those posters, really, really impressive.
Right.
I think those look cool. An Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's Spidey versus the world again. He's facing 8 different guys. This is going to be different than the second Spider-Man and the Sam Raimi trilogy, where Spider-Man just wants to give up his powers. This one, he seems to have a stronger resolve than ever. It seems to be the opposite of that, where he's like, well, I have to do this because I'm Spider-Man. In Sam Raimi's trilogy, he says, well, I quit. I can't be Spider-Man because everybody I love is in danger, basically.
Now, this Spider-Man movie is really interesting because I don't know if you guys heard this, but they had cast Mary Jane Watson. I think they got Shailene Woodley to do it.
Yeah, was she supposed to be Mary Jane, or was she supposed to be shoot? Who's Emma?
Emma Stone's already there.
Yeah, but she's not Mary Jane. She's
Gwen Stacy.
Gwen Stacy.
Gwen Stacy.
Okay.
So Shailene Woodley was cast. They filmed her parts entirely, like she did everything, and then they cut her out.
Oh
Which
man!
is a
So
lot,
there's this whole like
huge.
So that
money
movie
decision.
would be very interesting because you're going to see a script that's very different, and then you're going to get a movie that is like that. I don't know. I'm very curious about what it's going to be like because that's a very odd thing to do.
It's a completely odd thing to do. Yeah, you're
actually one more thing before we totally exit Captain America. The after credits scenes.
Yes, there were 2, and
neither one seemed. I mean, one of them was, I guess, you'd appreciate it if you knew anything about it, and then the other one was pointless. So I was disappointed by those two.
That's what it is now. Like I don't know why I stick around because it's same with after the Avengers. They were just eating shawarma, which fine,
that was
but
cute,
it's not
though.
worth wait 15 minutes for. And then same with this one. It's just. Pointless,
yeah, but that shows that. Well, so it's Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, who are the 2 twins, who are going to be in Age of Ultron. They're going to.
Like Elizabeth Olsen.
It was Elizabeth Olsen.
It is Elizabeth Olsen,
yes.
and they're actually those. This is the weirdest thing is that those 2 characters are also in Days of Future Past.
Yes, played by different actors.
Because I believe those 2 are supposed to be Magneto's kids.
I think that's the deal. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was just weird. Like you go into these after credit scenes, and it's like. Here's a random guy talking to another random guy about stuff we don't understand.
Yes.
And here's 2 characters we haven't seen yet and have no attachment to. It's like, great. So glad I saw that.
Yeah, but this is purely fan service. It's for the people who know the books. So they're just like, oh, they got them, like that weird scene after Thor 2 with Benicio del Toro.
Del Toro, yeah.
But it's also
also very odd.
Yeah, but they reveal that they have Loki's in this one they revealed they have Loki's scepter thing, and then at the very end we see Bucky and his civvies at the Smithsonian looking at his bio.
Yes.
So that tells me that he'll be back and he knows who he is, unless that was their version of closure. I'm not sure.
I don't think it was.
Oh yeah,
we don't know though. Like these end scenes don't play out until the next movie. It's like almost like a trailer for the next film, which is exciting. I think it's neat. Although, yes, you do have to. I remember on this movie, on this Captain America, there were about 18 different special effects houses that worked on this. Movie. It was insane.
Wow.
So there's a whole minute of here are all the people that work here, and then here's all the people that work in our German office.
Well, I think it's important to know that even though I mistakenly say that computers make these effects, computers facilitate these effects. People still make them, and they work really bloody hard on them. The special effects people who have a job, and they go home and support their families doing something they love. It is art, really. It is. It's difficult, and I think they deserve to be acknowledged. Even though they like to be behind the scenes, they deserve to be acknowledged because, in my experience, very few people work harder than a film crew. I tip my hat off to all of them.
Absolutely.
I think it's we're about that time right now. And any last thoughts? I mean, we could, like I said, we could talk about this for days. About Cap or about Soup or what?
I am not very excited about the Batman Superman movie, which is disappointing because I don't even mind Ben Affleck as Batman or Bruce Wayne. I think that could be interesting, but just everything I've seen from Man of Steel and from Superman, it's just I'm not excited for that movie.
Well, yeah. I hope it's a case where Hulk doesn't work well on his own in a film. The Hulk movies don't really work, but he works really well as an Avenger. So if Batman and Superman, if they get that dynamic right, it could be awesome.
Yeah, if they get a Justice League thing going where he can work off other superheroes and things like that, maybe. But
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to go see, another Superman movie.
Yeah, unless it's done by a different director.
Even still, I'm starting
Maybe.
to think the character. It's kind of like Spider-Man for me. I didn't really like the second or third Spider-Man, and therefore didn't see the other ones because it turns out I probably just don't like him as a character.
Yeah, that could be it.
I thought. Yeah,
I enjoy him.
I do have to disagree about. Sorry, I have to disagree about Hulk just because the Edward Norton movie that came out I thought was actually pretty good.
It was pretty good, but it didn't do good business though. It was just something about
that's true.
It was good, but it wasn't what the series needed to help it survive. I'll put it that way. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't enough, and that's why he worked so well in Avengers. He was almost a highlight for me of that film.
Yeah,
I enjoyed him quite a bit. So yeah, that's the I'm going to call it Triple Threat Podcast for this week.
Yep.
That's it. Thanks a lot for listening. Again, we're just going to come up with a topic and try to stick to that as best we can every week in the realms of professional wrestling, films, comic books, television shows, sports. Gosh, we haven't even touched on sports.
Ancient Greek art.
Let's touch on sports real quick. Shout out to Liverpool.
Basket weaving.
Liverpool beat Manchester City today.
There you
go.
go.
Now the Premier League's in their hands, so if they can win out, they're going to win their first title since 1989.
There you go. We were all alive back then, but but it was a heck of a long time ago. Well, the NHL playoffs are starting next week?
Yeah, really soon here.
So we
really.
Yeah, we'll give that its own kind of chat. I mean, nobody in town is happy right now. We're all,
Will is
in Vancouver. Nobody in Vancouver is happy right now. It's tough for us. They play their last game against Calgary this afternoon, and they'll name Pat Quinn to the Ring of Honor as well. They should, and they just named Trevor Linden the president. I don't know what that means yet. I think it's a PR move to save the face.
Thing. You can say what you want about it, but until I see results, I have no reason to be excited about it.
Well, even Trevor Linden said himself, he's like, well, I'm like, I haven't done anything right, but I haven't done anything wrong yet. So, here we go. Should be an interesting summer in Vancouver. People want to see some moves. I'm not sure what those moves need to be. Maybe we'll touch on that next time, and we'll talk about NHL playoffs. Maybe might not be such a bad idea. I don't know. I'm just talking out loud, spitballing.
Yep.
That's absolutely. Now, Will, you pointed out earlier you are an actor.
Yes.
Anything we should be watching for you in yet, or anything?
Not yet. My episode of Motive should be out by the end of May. I'm very proud of that episode. I had a tremendous amount of fun working with some great people, and I'd like to talk about it some more as we get closer to that day when I can find out when it is airing. But I'm very much looking forward to that, and also the film I did last summer, Edward. I just did ADR for both these. What ADR is when you basically finish up the audio. If you couldn't record something on the day or they wanted to add a line, they put you in a sound booth and you basically talk over your own mouth. You talk over yourself. So I notice it in movies all the time now, in movies and TV shows. I can't not notice it, and it bugs me, but it's necessary. There's not an actor alive, I think, who doesn't like ADR, except for oh gosh, I can't remember who it is. It was some actor I remember somebody said they worked with who mumbled every line and like, sorry man, I'm having a hard time hearing you on set here. He's like, oh yeah, don't worry about it, man. I always mumble my lines because I have to ADR everything because that's extra money, man, because they have to pay you for ADR. what a freaking greaseball. So anyway, I just recorded.
Carl Weathers?
Yeah, baby, you got a stew going. I just recorded ADR for both these shows. Edward, I think, will be a film festival release. No comment on what that will be. It's out of my hands. But Motive will air on CTV. Pardon me, CTV around the end of May. Heck, man, it's just the actor grind. Working in restaurants, meeting pro wrestlers, and auditioning in the daytime. And recording podcasts with my bros. Anything coming up for you guys?
Nope.
This podcast will be coming out.
Yes, good. Yeah, that's really exciting.
I'm moving to Halifax at in the end of June.
Yeah, that'll be fun. You and Alex will be able to record this in a room together, God willing.
If we want to, we can look at each other.
Yeah. Well, I will need to wear pants next time, I guess.
Yeah, that's the joy.
Ooh.
That's the subtle joy
There it
of
is,
recording
folks.
a podcast. Well, I'm on Twitter at William C. Vaughn, Vaughan.
I'm on Twitter at MP Vaughn. Vaughn spelled the same way.
And I am also on Twitter.
There you go. And you have to, it's a surprise to see how you find him.
Track him down.
One other thing I'm going to add, I'm not sure how this is going to come around, but me and my good friend Ian, who's another actor in town from Halifax, or from Cole Harbor, heck, we're recording film commentaries. If you're interested in that, we've recorded one for.
Sorry.
Excuse me.
WrestleMania.
Sorry.
Who am I? I'm not Cuba Gooding Jr. up here. Leave me alone. No, we're recording film commentaries for Rocky 3, and we've done one for Terminator 2. Just two guys drinking. Yeah,
I want to hear that one.
just two guys sitting down, drinking red wine, talking about movies. We have no real insight, but it's something we enjoy doing, and we'll be recording a lot more commentaries in the future. So I got to tell you, the power in this little microphone, it's given me a lot of joy. It's given me this podcast. We're running over an hour, but that's okay, folks. If you're listening to this, Mom, we love you. And gosh, keep fit and have fun.
Couldn't say it better myself.